homeless single dad asked to fix the Heiress CEO's watch. Then it spoke with her father's voice. Marcus wiped his calloused hands on the threadbare towel that served as his workbench in the narrow alley behind Fifth Avenue's most exclusive shops. The cardboard sign propped against his makeshift repair station read "Watch Repair, $5" in his 8-year-old daughter's careful handwriting. Each letter had been traced multiple times with a dyeing marker, the way Emma did everything with painstaking precision that broke his heart a little more each day. 3 months. That's how long they'd been living in their rusted Honda Civic, parking in different spots each night to avoid the police. 3 months since the factory closed, since the eviction notice, since Emma stopped asking when they could go home. She'd adapted with the resilience of childhood that both amazed and devastated him, turning their car into a spaceship during the day and accepting peanut butter sandwiches as fancy restaurant food without complaint. The morning sun cast long shadows across the alley when polished heels clicked against the asphalt. Marcus looked up from the vintage Timex he was repairing, a wedding gift from an elderly man whose hands shook too much to wind it himself, to see a woman in a tailored navy suit approaching. Everything about her screamed money, the way she carried herself, the shine of her leather briefcase, the watch on her wrist that probably cost more than he'd made in his last 6 months at the factory. "Are you the watch repair guy?" Her voice carried the crisp authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Dark hair was pulled back in a perfect chignon, and her makeup was flawless despite the early hour. "Yes, Mom." Marcus set down his tools and stood, conscious of how his stained jeans and worn flannel shirt must look to her. "What can I help you with?" She hesitated, glancing around the alley as if surprised to find herself there. "This is going to sound crazy, but my assistant said you're the only person in the city who still repairs vintage pieces by hand." She unclasped the watch from her wrist to a stunning Art Deco piece with an intricate gold face and tiny diamonds marking the hours. "It belonged to my father. It stopped working yesterday, and every high-end jeweler I've called wants to send it to Switzerland. I need it fixed today." Marcus accepted the watch with reverent hands. He'd seen pieces like this in magazines, museum catalogs, estate sale websites he could never afford to buy from. The craftsmanship was extraordinary, each gear and spring a work of art in itself. "This is a 1925 Patek Philippe," he murmured, turning it over to reveal an engraved inscription, "To my darling Catherine, time stops when I'm with you. All my love, Charles." The woman's composure cracked slightly. "He gave it to my mother on their wedding day. She left it to me when she died 5 years ago. I've worn it every day since I took over the company." "What company?" "Sterling Industries. I'm Victoria Sterling." She said it like he should recognize the name, and Marcus realized he'd either from newspaper headlines about corporate takeovers and quarterly earnings reports. This woman probably made more in a day than he'd see in a lifetime. "I can fix it," Marcus said, though his heart hammered against his ribs. A mistake on a watch like this could cost him everything he had left, which admittedly wasn't much. "But I have to tell you, this is worth more than my life. If something goes wrong." "It won't." Her certainty surprised him. "How much?" $50. The words tumbled out before he could stop them. His usual $5 fee seemed insulting for such a piece, but 50 was still laughably low. Victoria pulled out her wallet without hesitation. "I'll pay you $500 if you can have it ready by noon." Marcus's hands trembled as he accepted the bills. $500. enough for a security deposit on an apartment, for Emma to sleep in a real bed again, for them to buy groceries without counting every penny. Mom, I appreciate it, but that's too meager. It's not. She checked her phone. I have meetings all morning, but I'll be back at noon. That watch. She paused, vulnerability flickering across her features. It's all I have left of him. After she left, Marcus worked with the focused intensity of a surgeon. Each tiny screw, every delicate spring, required absolute precision. Emma's picture, the one he kept tucked in his toolbox, watched over him as he labored. In it, she was grinning gap-toothed at the camera, wearing the pink dress her grandmother had sent for her birthday. The dress that was now too small, packed away in their single suitcase because he couldn't bear to throw it out. The watch's movement was more complex than anything he'd worked on, but his fingers remembered skills learned during better times, when he'd apprenticed under old Mr. Jameson at the jewelry store downtown. Before marriage, before Emma, before everything fell apart and he'd thought manual labor at the factory was more practical than fixing delicate timepieces. At 11:47, the watch began to tick. Marcus held it to his ear, listening to the steady rhythm that meant success. But as he prepared to close the case, something extraordinary happened. A voice emerged from the watcher, faint but unmistakably real. Victoria. Marcus nearly dropped the piece. He looked around the empty alley, wondering if someone was playing a cruel joke. But the voice came again, gentle and filled with infinite love. My darling girl, if you can hear this, then this old watch has found its way to someone special. Someone who understands that the most valuable things can't be measured in dollars or stock prices. The voice continued, and Marcus realized he was hearing a father's final message to his daughter. Somehow, impossibly, Charles Sterling had found a way to speak to Victoria one last time. I know you've been struggling since I've been gone, throwing yourself into work because you don't know how to grieve. But business was never what mattered most to me, Victoria. You were. Your kindness, your generous heart, that's what I was proudest of. Don't let the corporate world make you forget who you really are. Tears blurred Marcus's vision as the voice grew fainter. There's a reason this watch found its way to this particular person, in this particular place. Pay attention to the lesson, sweetheart. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in the humblest packages. The voice faded, leaving only the gentle ticking of restored clockwork. At exactly noon, Victoria's heels announced her return. Marcus stood as she approached, the watch cradled in his palms like a sacred relic. Is it? She began. Working perfectly. He held it out to her. But there's something you need to know. When I got it running, your father spoke to you. Through the watch. I know how that sounds, Buter. Victoria's face went pale. What did he say? Marcus repeated the message word for word, watching as tears traced perfect lines down her cheeks, taking her careful makeup with them. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. He always said he'd find a way to watch over me, she whispered finally. I thought it was just something people say. She looked at Marcus with new eyes, seeing past his worn clothes to the skill in his hands, the honesty in his face. Where do you live? The question caught him off guard. We're between places right now. We? My daughter Emma and me. She's 8. We've been staying in our car since I lost my job, but it's temporary. I'm working on getting us back on our feet. Victoria was quiet for another moment, then pulled out her phone. "I'm going to make some calls. Sterling Industries has been looking for someone to run our in-house restoration department. We have a lot of vintage pieces that need proper care: watches, clocks, antique jewelry. The position comes with a salary, benefits, and a company apartment until you can find something permanent." Marcus stared at her in shock. "Mom, I can't accept her." "You're not accepting charity. You're accepting a job offer. From someone who just received the most valuable gift she's ever been given." She fastened the watch round her wrist, where it resumed its rightful place. "My father was right. The greatest treasures are often hidden in the humblest packages." 3 hours later, Marcus picked Emma up from the after-school program at the community center, where she'd been spending her days while he worked. Her face lit up when he told her they had a new home, a real apartment with her own room and a kitchen where they could cook actual meals. "Is it because you're magic, Daddy?" she asked as they drove to their new beginning. "Because you can make broken things work again?" Marcus glanced in the rear-view mirror at his daughter's bright eyes and thought about the impossible voice that had emerged from an antique watch, about a grieving CEO who had chosen kindness over suspicion, about second chances that arrived exactly when hope seemed lost. "Something like that, sweetheart," he said, pulling into the parking garage of their new building. "Something exactly like that." That night, as Emma slept peacefully in her own bed for the first time in months, Marcus sat by the window of their furnished apartment and thought about the mysterious ways that broken things, watches, lives, hearts, that could be made whole again. Sometimes it just took the right person, in the right place, at the right time, willing to believe that miracles could tick softly in the palm of your hand.